So all the students present, after 3 years of studied and mastered all the already knowledge about the system of professions. Today was an important day for everyone. The day of choosing a profession that determines the fate of each of them. The director of the Sinai Academy, named Leon Bray, congratulated the graduates. The director hopes that everyone can reach the 80th level of their mentor, Xian Singh, who was a holy magician, and become a reliable support for the human race. Each student has come a long and difficult path to stand here today and wait to see how their future fate will be determined. The young man's name is Dre Gareth. He was transferred to this world many years ago and can finally get his profession, and here is the circle of transformation. This world is similar to an RPG game. There are not only many dungeons with secrets, but also many monsters in the wild. After choosing a profession, people can earn experience by killing monsters, emptying dungeons in secret areas, thereby increasing their strength and level. Countless sages conquered space for the human race among non-mortal monsters, and thus achieved stability in society. Of course, the most popular professions in this world are combat classes, then support classes, and then household ones, which are also divided into categories: low, medium, high, rare, and legendary. There are only 5 of them, and in 10 years, not a single legendary profession may appear in the city of Sinai. Each time this moment is filled with excitement, vague hopes, satisfaction, and disappointment, the circle of transformation is activated. Dre was approached by an inspired classmate named Kai Middle. So what profession would his friend most like? Well, why is Dre silent? Kai wants to be a knight, and with his body, he will definitely become one, and will be able to protect the girls, and Gareth has a chance with such assessments. Kai was reprimanded by another student. Why is he talking to an idiot? He won't answer him, and his grades are a little better, but Dre can get a household profession. Well, why be so cruel and ignorant? Because Gareth is silent only because he himself does not want to talk. Director Lin Bray turned to the master of the 52nd level organization, named Xian Khan, apologizing for the trouble he had caused. The student froze in amazement. This old man is truly a master of organization. This is a rare support profession. So the head of the Sinai Training Academy checked the microphone and announced that everyone enters the circle of transformation as soon as the director calls his name. So the first to enter the circle of transformation is a student named Shiren Forest. The young man stood on a magic mark and was assigned to the household class. His profession is farming. Stunned by such a verdict from the circle of circulation, the young man grabbed his head. How could this be? The student could not believe it. Shiren changed his profession and became a farmer. This class can be upgraded to a sacred farmer among household classes. This is not bad. The second student was identified as a domestic class cook. His father was also a cook. The young man was glad that he would continue his father's work. The initiation ceremony was observed by the director and master of the organization this year. Most of the students are average, not a single rare profession. It would be nice to get a high-level profession from the combat classes. There are only 1 or 2 rare professions that appear every year, so there is little hope. Varia Roy came out next. The student cast a contemptuous glance at Dre. She will show the silent young man which of them is the real genius. At the Sinai Academy, both the girl and the silent young man were known as geniuses, but Gareth was always ahead of Varia, and she did not admit defeat. The eyes of the master of the organization immediately flashed with interest. This graduate clearly has great potential. While seeing Khan decided so, the director was surprised. Varia's mental strength is twice that of ordinary people. She can become a magician. This is a high-level profession in the combat class. And if this is some kind of special magician, then this is a rare profession. Then a bright flame flared up, a vision appeared. Then this is a rare profession. So the student was assigned to the combat class and received the profession of an elementary magician, as expected from a genius. This is too powerful. After leveling up, 1 forbidden spell from a student can destroy the entire Sinai. The director of the academy broke into a satisfied smile. The magician of the organization praised the graduate. Varia bowed. It was an honor for her. The girl is too good. This is a rare fighting class this time. Varia definitely surpassed this silent upstart. Well, the student was really more than pleased. With her initiation, Dre definitely couldn't jump over that. The next student to enter the circle of transformation should be a student named Dre Gareth. All the inspired students immediately fell silent. Each of them was waiting for this initiation. Well, the time has come for this upstart to stay in the shadow of Varia Roy. Today is her day. All the rays of fame and recognition will go to her. The director became serious. What will the master say about this student apart from Dre's Calmness then. There is absolutely nothing special about the student. There are two geniuses at Sinai Academy. Varia Roy was always the second, and Dre was the first. Academic success is not always related to class and profession. However, within the head of the educational institution, there was still a glimmer of hope that a student of such outstanding intelligence and abilities would also be able to obtain a rare profession. As soon as the genius of the academy stepped on to the enchanted mark, everything around flared up with a devastating magical flame. It seemed that the whole world was focused on this guy. Then the young man was illuminated by a magical pillar of unimaginable size. Everything was filled with black clouds. A strong wind rose. What was happening? The director of the academy froze in silent shock. The rest of the students began to shun. What was happening? What is this? The master of the organization announced that this is a vision. And why is the vision so huge? This has never happened in history. The vision during transformation means that they're Varia froze in horror. The girl could not lose to Dre again. His vision was simply of universal proportions compared to him. Her vision was only zilch. The rest of the students did not know how to react to such unbridled and crushing power, but everyone felt that something unthinkable would happen. Everything around was shrouded in intense darkness. Thousands of dead eyes flashed from the warning darkness. Through the gray thunderclouds, frightened screams began to be heard among the large crowd, and dead souls began to be released from the dark fog. One of the students began to back away and lost. And so above the silent genius, on the day of his initiation, a dark funnel was born from which dead souls fell. Everyone present could barely stand on their feet. Such a stream of crushing power emanated from this guy that it was impossible to hide from his shockwave. Varia Roy completely drooped. The body of the silent graduate lit up with a green light. Dead souls began to flock to him and swarm around the young man. The young genius opened his eyes and looked at his hand. A green flame flashed in it. He received a combat class, a unique hidden profession of a necromancer. Not only did Dre receive a hidden profession, it was also unique, which meant that he was now the only necromancer in the entire world. And from now on, until the guy himself dies, no one will have this profession. His gift is not only rarer than a rare profession, but also rarer than a legendary one. The students immediately screamed, "Dre is incredibly strong," but history remembers people whose hidden professions were not good, for which Dre was so lucky. Hidden professions are not only rare, they definitely become great. His vision was so scary, which means the young man will interact with the dead. This guy doesn't talk at all. How will he communicate with the dead? The uniqueness of the hidden profession is much better than Dre himself expected. The silent genius confidently jumped from the initiation pedestal. The master of the organization asked him to come to him. The guy, who had already written himself down as a legend of his time, bowed politely and clarified how he could be useful to his master. The master of the organization has never seen a unique profession. Could the young man demonstrate his strength? He will have to wait a little. Dre summons an iron skeleton warrior. He sets the target's soul on fire and deals fire damage. His strength depends on the level of ability and fortitude, so the power of his spirit is incredibly strong. The necromancer belongs to the magician profession, but the ability to summon spirits seems to belong to the summoner class, and then a saint. The students watched in horror. This guy actually summoned a dead man from a dark cloud, this time for real. Behind the back of his Dark Lord stood a demonic warrior, a skeleton, and was waiting for a command. The master of the organization began to attack the dead warrior. The skeleton warrior was attacked. The necromancer can counterattack. If the young man does not make a choice in 10 seconds, the dead man will automatically counterattack. Sinkai froze expectantly. Well, this is very interesting. The necromancer ordered his dead warrior to freeze in his place. The master has the 52nd level, Dre the first, but his being makes the teacher feel dangerous. It is difficult to discern the strength of his profession. The master of the organization was quite thrown. The mentor is grateful to the student for demonstrating his strength. This may be beneficial in the future. The necromancer bowed respectfully and silently began to return to his place. Through the frightened crowd, Dre was accompanied by his dead warrior. An annoying blonde immediately ran up to the only necromancer in the world. But Kai can touch this dead thing. The silent one doesn't mind. Is this skeleton really such a strong warrior? The student has a hard time believing it. The dead man looks more like a scarecrow, but he is much stronger than Kai himself. So Kot's middle is invited next to the initiation circle. The chatterbox immediately rushed to get his profession. They will talk later. Dre deactivated the skeleton. Dead creatures can be summoned at any time without wasting spirit power. Summoning slots accommodate undead and can be increased with level. When the young man first received his profession, he saw a real necromancer, and someday Dre himself will be able to kill a mighty dragon in 1 second. Kai has become a combat class sword in Shield Knight. Just as the young man himself said, and now the young people will fight together back to back Dre. So the initiation is over. All that remains is to get good marks for the test in order to get into a higher educational institution. Tomorrow the Sinai dungeon will be open for beginners. The monsters in the dungeon are concentrated from the 1st to the 8th level. There are few of them, so the difficulty is low. It is much safer than the wild area. The only necromancer in the world was called by Varia. She offered to compare the exam results. The student wants to compete with him again. Isn't number 2 still tired of always swallowing dust? After the obvious leader of the Sinai school, she loses every time. Varia promised that she would not lose to Dre again, although she had already done this many times, and each time she received a crushing defeat. The young genius returned to his small and cozy room and picked up a framed photo from the chest of drawers. While the initiation went very well. In the photo was a beloved granny, her grandson received a unique profession, and a beloved sister let her wait for him. He will also enter the Shire Academy. Here the warm family nostalgia was interrupted by a persistent knock on the door. The director of the academy stood at the entrance to the room and ordered the young man to take supplies. Last year, out of all of Sinai, only the sister of the only necromancer in the world was accepted into the Shire Academy. Her name is Red Yara Gareth. The head of the academy made a promise to Dre's older sister to take good care of the boy before she agreed to go to Shire, and the headmaster will keep his word. So tomorrow every student will have a hard day. They will all go to the dungeon, so the student should have a good rest and sleep. It's midnight. A notification pops up in front of Dre. The host has awakened the profession of necromancy. The strongest talent system is being created. Receiving the origin of the world has been activated, and the optimization of god-level abilities has been completed. A talent and a passive skill have. B. All skill effects are increased 5 times. Spiritual energy is equal to 10. The only necromancer in the world summoned a skeleton warrior. The strength, agility, and physique of an iron skeleton warrior are equal to 75. All the attributes of the summoned dead warrior actually increased 5-fold. The silent genius felt his boundless dark energy growing. With such abilities, the young man was simply invincible. The night flew by unnoticed. The next morning came. Numerous students were already crowding in front of the dungeon. Kai invited the necromancer to unite. The team will slow down Dre. Swing faster alone. The bastard is looking down on Kai. He invited him sincerely. What a stupid excuse. Varia intruded into the boyish conversation. In general, the silent guy is right. Experience is evenly divided between teammates, so it's better to go alone until the 10th level. So all students except Dre and Varia should take support in the dungeon. Since there are only beginners here, no scheme tricks, and why don't these two need supports? Varia plans to get into the Shire Academy. She needs to level up faster. Besides, she is an elementalist magician, and Dre's abilities clearly exceed all of them combined. The girls immediately began to fearfully back away from the only necromancer in the world. They were frightened by the dark aura of the young man. And all these undead. The silent genius held the staff of fortitude and in a confident tone announced to the director that he to plan to enter the Shire. To pass the final test, you need at least level 12th and preferably 15. His sister entered there at level 16. The highest level of monsters is 8. Dre will never reach 12th, and besides, there are a bunch of other requirements that will be revealed before the finale. The young genius understands that his goal is unrealistic, but the necromancer was calm. The young man is sure that it's not bad given his hidden profession. It might work out. Varia turned dissatisfied at the invincible leader and suggested that they compete again. Silence means agreement. How annoying she is. Well, it's time to start upgrading your abilities and profession. There is no time to waste. Dre must be next to his sister. After nightly meditation, the necromancer's spirit was restored by 40 points, so he can summon for more skeletons nights. The dark necromancer swung his staff of fortitude with a sharp movement and called upon the dark undead to serve immediately. For chilling dead warriors appeared in the newcomer's dungeon. Dre ordered them to find the monsters and kill them. And now the first skeleton. The warrior had already found his victim. The undead killed the big-eared rabbit. With one movement, each monster killed by skeletons increased the experience of their owner by 1%, so killing 100 of these monsters would be enough to raise the level. And so the necromancer raised the level in just half an hour. And now his unique hidden profession already had the 2nd level. The stats increased again. The number of skeletons increased to 8. The necromancer summons 2 more dead warriors. The speed of killing monsters by skeleton warriors and raising levels has increased, and this is just the beginning. A map with markers appeared before the eyes of the dark magician, which means there is also such a function. The trace of his dead warriors creates a map. So next to the young man, there were monsters that the undead led him through so he could just test his active skills on them. The necromancer, with steely calm activated soul burning the skill, with a 5-fold increase, burn the monster to ashes in just a second. Spiritual attacks are very powerful. And these are just 2 sets of skills, so the necromancer profession is definitely stronger than even the legendary profession. Dre received his 3rd level. The silent genius did not give in to his dark gift. The young man summoned another detachment of dead warriors and set them against the dungeon monsters. 4 hours passed, and Dre was already level 4. He would get the next one in about an hour, and after the 8th, he would go to Surpassing, where there are more high-level monsters. Varia's father was sitting next to the director that Master Conroy forgot here. Apparently Con wants to visit his daughter. That's all. The father is grateful for taking care of his girl. Con is sorry that yesterday he was not able to see Varia's initiation. The elementalist magician is a very rare profession, perfectly suited to her hard work and intelligence. The girls' teachers, Ian Leroy and Lyon Moden, both had rare professions and received level 5 in the first dungeon, so Varia should have the same. This girl has been passionate about competition since childhood. If Varia cannot reach the 5th level on the first day, it will be difficult for her to enter Shara. Each has its own countdown. From the moment of entry, each will be automatically kicked out after 12 hours. The girl's father learned that yesterday a certain hidden profession appeared. It is fraught with clearly unprecedented power, but so far its potential is not clear. The greatest distance between skeletons and necromancers is 500 meters. You can simply wait for the level to rise until the undead clear the location. The only necromancer in the world already had the 7th level. This is an unthinkable record. I wonder how the rest of the students are doing. Well, the dead army very quickly cleared the perimeter of monsters. All that remains is to fight the monster of the 8th level. The necromancer walked ahead of his dead squad, and then the unique young man was struck across the body with lightning speed by a branched whip. The young dark magician was immediately thrown aside. The necromancer activated the passive skill of transferring his damage to the dead. And here comes the monster of the 8th level. This is the whip tree. It attacks any creature that is next to it. So this whip tree is the 8th level monster in the beginner's dungeon. Its skeletons have risen to 275. I wonder how much damage they will cause. The dark necromancer carefully examined his wooden opponent and ordered the undead to attack the last monster. The skeleton warriors immediately rushed to Canute's tree and began to strike him with crushing blows, but the monster did not die. Destroying such a monster requires 4 hits, which will reduce the pumping speed. The tree was killed. So within the vision of the dark magician, there were already 100 such trees, and this place is simply a sanctuary for leveling up the necromancer. Dead warriors rushed through the dark thicket with lightning speed and destroyed the enemies of their master. Numerous notifications about awarding points for killing trees began to appear in front of the only necromancer in the world, so the young man walked through the forest and found a portal. Had someone already completed the passage? This cannot be. Something must have happened. Teachers immediately came running to the student. And why was Dre here? Well, the young man had already destroyed all the monsters. Dre managed to get the 7th level in 10 hours. The necromancer wants to go to Surpassing. There are monsters left behind that are too small to level up to the 8th level. For the first time in history, someone managed to destroy all the monsters in the dungeon, and also in 10 hours. What kind of power does this necromancer have? Well, the director allows the young man to go there. He will issue a traveler certificate for now. Let this young genius rest a little. So why did this student leave the rookie dungeon so early? What happened? And where are his teammates? This guy always acts alone. Dre completed the dungeon and killed all the level 8 monsters, but this is impossible. The necromancer's abilities surpass even all current legendary professions. He is divinely strong. What will happen when the guy gains a level? There is no need to worrying about this genius. He definitely has a bright future ahead of him, so then this can greatly affect Master Khan's daughter. She doesn't know how to lose. Apparently, Varia's father is not aware, but Dre's results have always exceeded those of his daughter. She is always in 2nd place. The number of skeletons that Dre can summon is already 24. The number of places for summoning has increased to 70. It will take time. Varia reached the 5th level and was wildly proud of herself. She also entered the standard beginner record, so this time she would not lose. The ever-losing student joyfully entered the portal and immediately froze on the other side as this guy was already here. he was ahead of her again. Just a minute. How did Dre manage to reach the 7th level? It's impossible, the girl herself is only at the 5th level, and even then she came later. How infuriating this upstart is. Why is he always better than her? And what will Varia's father do? Master Khan joyfully greeted his girl. So his daughter is still trying to reach this guy. Dre is a complete asshole. He always turns out to be stronger than the girl. Maybe she needs her father's help. Nothing of the kind. Varia is the strongest. She was just unlucky all this time, and she will definitely prove it. Her father laughed. In 10 hours, Dre killed absolutely all the monsters, even the 8th level, and Varia was even inaccessible to this zone. She was only at the 5th. Kai immediately stuck to the necromancer as the young man reached the 7th level. The knight begged Boss Dre to take his faithful friend with him. Well, next time the dark magician thinks about it, it means the knight will be waiting for him tomorrow at the entrance to the school. The next day, the white-haired annoying one was waiting for Dre. The director did not know where this young man was. The necromancer had already gone to Surubi. Kai immediately angrily threw his backpack to the ground. Dre dared to deceive him. The knight would defeat him. The director advised him to give up immediately. He could not win. Identification initialization was completed successfully. Citizen Dre Gareth was identified, and permission to enter was given. I wonder what kind of tasks there are. Collecting green octopuses or black valve skins. They give a lot of gold for them, which means they are difficult. Difficulty is divided into normal, nightmare, and hellish. The task of normal difficulty can be completed alone. The tasks of nightmarish complexity are much more dangerous and difficult, and a strong team is already required to complete them. And it's not even worth getting into tasks of hellish complexity with any average normal profession for now. Dre will wait. The knight held the young man's ID. And what kind of profession is a necromancer, and what academy allows a 7th level beginner to leave the city? The travel certificate is active. He can travel between cities. Dre's life is most important. Let him return in case of danger. There are many monsters there. You need to be very careful, especially at night. This is not just a wall. These are 2 worlds inside and outside the city. The wind carries the smell of blood. The roar of monsters can be heard in the distance. The world behind the border wall is clearly much more dangerous and darker than usual. The young man needs to be vigilant. An unexpected guest has appeared behind him. The 7th level beginner looked into the distance behind him. The winged goblin was already anticipating the taste of blood and young flesh. It would be an easy prey. The boy won't even notice how he will be torn to shreds. The dark necromancer summoned the undead and ordered him to kill this stinking goblin. The goblin has level 10. But it is nothing compared to the skeleton with stats 375. The stinking monster attacked the knight with a club, but the skeleton remained standing motionless. His strength, agility, spirit, and skills were equal to 375. So the vile goblin was just an annoying insect for him. The monster was dumbfounded with horror. The vile winged goblin realized his inevitable defeat and called an entire goblin horde from the desert to his aid. This means what a goblin of the 10th level is capable of at this speed. The young man must manage to reach the 15th level before the final test. However, Ritiara received the 16th level before the final test. How did his sister do it? My beloved sister always took such care of the younger Dre, always prepared everything so that he wouldn't want to. The young man would definitely go to her and share her. Dre never thought that he would get the 10th level so quickly. Since he belongs to the magicians, he would gain the greatest increase in spirit. His skeletons were upgraded to bronze, and now the dead warriors also have active skills. The teacher said that after the 10th level, there would be a big breakthrough. With such stats, the dark magician would be able to clear this place too. So just a minute. Apparently, the only necromancer in the world again killed all the monsters around. Then, out of nowhere, a red arrow flew straight into the young man's head. That's where it came from, and why on earth? Then a hail of arrows rained down on the dark necromancer. Dre activated the transfer of damage to the undead. Thanks to his active passive skill, the necromancer managed to avoid death. His dead warrior was damaged. So who else is this? Judging by the appearance, it looks like the profession of an assassin, and the one who attacked the necromancer is most likely an archer. The assassin girl ran past the necromancer with lightning speed. This unfamiliar traveler was clearly being pursued by someone for something, which means these 2 idiots who don't look at all where they're aiming might be worth teaching these idiots a lesson. They are fools. These 2 pursuers are going completely in the wrong direction, so they will never catch this assassin. There are no traces of the assassin visible at all. One of the guys asked the young man if he had seen a man in black clothes here. However, The dark necromancer ignored the questions of these idiots. The arrow of one of them hit Dre. They should apologize for their rudeness. That is, the archer's arrow hit this young wanderer, and at the same time he remained unharmed, so they apologize. Let this idiot not do this again, and let this kid not see that his interlocutors are in a bad mood. The eyes of the second pursuer of the assassin immediately flashed, and what kind of filthy evil is this? This skeleton is a warrior. With enviable observation, the dead warrior covered his master with himself, preventing any attempts to attack him. Only those who are hidden criminals with dark thoughts can awaken such heinous professions by summoning the undead. He is clearly a bad guy. The guy was clearly indignant and wanted to move on to hostilities, but he was besieged by his comrade in arms. The pursuers have unfinished business. They cannot waste their time on some stupid youth. While these two idiots were clearly lucky, any attack they made turned out to be an attack 100 times more devastating for them. The goblin patrol of the 10th level was eliminated, after which the amount of experience before increasing the level increased 3 times for 1 level. You need to kill 5,000 goblins. Dre doesn't think that he will be able to reach level 11 tonight, even if the skeleton continues to kill tirelessly. However, it is also too late to return back to the Black Campus, so the young man will remain here. In addition, if the only necromancer in the world wants to get into the Shire Academy with his sister, he needs to try much harder. The guy will reach the 13th level by tomorrow. After the 15th, the rate of increase will decrease. You can't even skip a day. The sky was clouded with a scattering of stars. Deep night was already reigning around. The forest was plunged into darkness. Silence reigned. The necromancer was sitting by a cozy fire. The fire crackled pleasantly in it. The young man started well, but this is only the beginning of his journey. Rudyara is a sword dancer, a legendary profession, but there was no way his sister could surpass his rate of leveling up, which he missed out on. Perhaps it's all about the underground of Rigo's mines. Could she team up with others and go into the mines of nightmarish difficulty, because she then returned wounded? After all, more experience points are given for killing monsters in a dungeon of nightmarish difficulty tomorrow. We will need to check this guess. It was slowly getting warmer around, which meant the next day of the future student was quickly approaching. While the necromancer was talking about his sister, an uninvited guest came out of the forest thicket and headed towards the fire. The silent genius immediately turned around. This is a swinging professional. Not many people swing in the middle of the night. This man is probably lost. Just a minute, the necromancer's face stretched out in surprise. This is the same girl from the desert, the assassin whom those two followed. The fugitive asked if the unknown magician had any food. The young man politely handed his guests some potatoes. The assassin nodded her head gratefully and took off her mask from her face. The girl had red eyes and ashen hair. The assassin began to quickly and greedily devour the potatoes. This girl was very hungry. The guest even forgets to chew her food. She simply swallows it. As a result, the assassin began to choke and try to breathe, clearing her throat. The necromancer handed the fugitive a bottle of water so that she could overcome her food blockage. The girl also greedily drained the bottle. After the assassin finally finished her meal, the girl thanked her for her concern and asked the name of her savior. However, the silent genius did not answer his interlocutor. He only examined her face. Why was the boy silent? The girl understood everything. This young man is not the talkative type. Well, in that case, why don't the young people test each other's skills? The only necromancer in the world nodded his head approvingly, after which the young companions touched each other with their index fingers. The analysis skill is activated, but Dre's analysis failed. The assassin smiled. Rather, the guy didn't succeed, did he? But the girl managed to count him, so his name is Dre Gareth. The young man is level 10. His profession is a necromancer. She had never heard of this before. It seems that then the assassin saw skeletons standing next to Dre, which means it was his summoning of the undead, an extremely rare talent. And this mysterious guy is becoming more and more interesting. The guest began to wave her hand in front of his face. Why is he silent? He's definitely not dumb. Then the necromancer broke his silence and asked why. The girl squealed with delight. That means Dre is all talking like that. What a relief. However, the mysterious magician did not react in any way to his interlocutor's delight and only repeated his question again. So why did the young man's analysis not work? It was because of the blocking sign. Anyone who was not 10 levels above the native would not be able to successfully use the analysis. After which the assassin deactivated the magic of the blocking sign. Let the mysterious necromancer now try to activate his analysis. Well, the young genius doesn't mind repeating the analysis of his interlocutor. Dre again put his index finger in front of himself. The skill was activated. So in front of the young man sat a girl named Liren Vesper. She was level 19. Her profession was a shadow assassin. Very interesting. The necromancer began to study his companion with open interest. Marks of uninvited guests flashed on his map. These are the same idiots from the desert who were chasing his interlocutors. They discovered the skeletons and are trying to surround the young people. Well, haven't those pursuers left? It's just an average skill scroll. They've been chasing her for several days now and still won't give up. Well, the girl is very grateful to the young man for his help and responsiveness, but she doesn't want to cause him trouble, so it's time for her to leave. However, out of nowhere, a magical red arrow quickly flew towards the girl, and the assassin managed to dodge it. A magic arrow whistled past the girl and hit the tree trunk, after which a red light flashed around and marks appeared above the heads of the young people. The shadow assassin bared her teeth angrily, cold sweat dripping down her forehead. This freak sent a marking arrow at them. This could be a problem. This skill marks the target, making them an easy target, unable to enter invisibility. This kind of dispelling of invisibility helps to find killers and monsters. This time, these idiots prepared for their chase much better than the previous one. Apparently, they were still tired of losing to this girl. A vile magician of light appeared behind the dark magician. The children were surrounded and doomed. What a sweet moment. On a branch of one of the trees, hidden in the shadow of its crown, sat the same archer who had marked the desired targets. But the blonde guy said that these two are a team, a vile rat assassin and a vile summoner of the undead, a good duo of villains. The shadow assassin took out her weapon and took a fighting position. All this does not concern her companion. The young man has nothing to do with it. She will give them the scroll, and they will disperse. It would have been great if the bastard had done this yesterday, but now the guys think it would be safer to kill them, so no one will know that the scroll will belong to them. Dre is only level 10. Liren cannot drag him into what she has done. She will buy some time and let the young man just run away. What about Liren? Well, she's a shadow assassin. She can handle them. Night is her time to dance if she were so strong, but she wouldn't run away from them. In addition, the shadow assassin was marked with a magic mark, and the girl's invisibility skills disappeared. It will be very difficult for her. One of the vile pursuers shouted that he was tired of waiting. It was time to finally deal with these thieves. The disgusting blonde stretched out in an ugly grimace and activated his staff. It will kill not only the rat, but also this impudent boy. This rotten magician most likely controls the energy of light. The young people turned to look at him expectantly. This skill is not only for illumination, it dispels darkness. It will not allow the assassin to go invisible. And now the thief is doomed. Well, the girl understands perfectly well the horror of her situation, but she has no choice. She must give it her all and protect them both. The archer with magic arrows had already pulled the string of his bow. His vile comrade in arms smiled predatorily, anticipating quick blood. The blonde put a magic staff in front of him and activated the energy of light. These vile thieves cannot escape from them. So the two young people were surrounded on all sides. The girl was ready for blood. The necromancer watched what was happening with steely calm, after which the silent magician raised his hand and called on his dead warrior. Let the skeleton destroy these idiots. The blonde rolled his eyes in disgust. What a waste of energy, because calling the undead is so disgusting. The bastard activated his fireballs. They are level 20, so they will grind the black magician into powder. Then the shadow assassin grabbed the silent young man by the arm and ordered Dre to immediately run away from here. But before the girl had time to take a step, her leg was captivated by a magical spiritual thread. When this freak managed to get into it, the archer launched an open attack and fired a triple shot at the young people with triple damage. They had nowhere to go. The girl opened her eyes in horror. They are doomed. What an idiot she is. She framed this nice guy, and now they will both die in this thicket of the forest. This will not work. The shadow assassin will take the entire combat blow upon himself. Dre should not die through the fault of the assassin. The shadow assassin froze in horror. What had the girl done? This guy is so good and kind. What did she get him into? On the other hand, a pillar of fire was flying straight towards the young man, and on the other a pile of magic arrows. They were doomed. However, a painful death did not follow. A dark undead suddenly appeared in front of the girl and took her in a circle, shielding her from the crushing blow. The entire fiery magical pillar came to the skeleton warrior. The necromancer summoned his dead army ahead of his opponents. Another undead warrior fought off a hail of magical arrows flying at his dark master, thereby saving the lives of young people. While some of the skeletons defended their master and his companion, others rushed to the offensive. One undead was already attacking the vile bastard. Just a couple of sharp movements of the undead, and the 20th level warrior was thrown away from the shockwave of the skeleton's crushing blow. A dead warrior with axes in his hands passed through the pillar of fire. The flames did not harm him in any way, so he quickly approached the magician of light. The blonde grimaced in horror. How is this even possible? His analytical skill shows that the guy only has level 10. Why is his undead so strong? The bastard has the 21st level. This dark brat is not even a match for him. So why can't he kill him? The rest of the attackers had also already realized that their high-level skills did not work with this guy. Why did this summon have such high rates? Then everything around was illuminated with a dark magical light. The only necromancer in the world called upon his army of the undead. Will these idiots already had a chance to prove themselves and demonstrate their capabilities? It was very mediocre. It's time for him to demonstrate his profession and finally deal with his pitiful opponents. A chilling army of dark undead had already gathered around the world's only necromancer. Impending death was visible in their empty eye sockets. There were already tens of times more skeleton warriors. The dead guard surrounded the enemies of their master and were only waiting for his order. The shadow assassin jumped on the spot in amazement. Why are the undead so strong? Why can't these idiots with their level inflict damage on the necromancer? And where there are so many of them is from how divinely strong you need to be to summon so many powerful warriors. The dark magician closed his eyes and concentrated on his tasks. Nothing should distract him from entering the Shire Academy. Yes, it's better not to anger this young phenomenon. The young man is very kind, but he will not allow anyone to be offended, and a terrible punishment awaits them for their misdeeds. And these idiots dared to waste his precious time and threaten the necromancer with death. Dre's eyes flashed with dark lights. This is what the verdict looked like. The dead army roared menacingly and rushed predatorily at its victims. The shadow assassin froze in his place, afraid to move. The vile light activated his protective barrier, confident that this would protect him from the wrath of the bronze skeleton warriors. The first undead to approach the blonde struck the protective dome with his steel sword, and a crack spread throughout the barter. Then several more bronze skeletons ran up to the protective dome, and from their crushing blows all the barter magic was shattered. What kind of creatures are these? Who is this young man who has such divine power? The magician of light activated his staff and threw the undead away from him. Let this brat feel the full power of a light magician. The pursuer will never lose to a newcomer. Two dead warriors broke through the blonde's light magic and pointed their steel swords at their prey. The magician of light barely managed to cut the body of one of the skeletons in two with his staff, but after the second, the dead man cut off the magician's head with one blow. In the thicket of the forest, the undead were already chasing the archer. His agility attribute was above 1,000. Why couldn't he break away? How is instant killing even possible after all? Only a second has passed. The necromancer's undead are everywhere. The archer has no way of escaping from them. The third pursuer activated his ultimate defense. The silent genius was surprised that this idiot had this skill. A knight with extreme defense is able to withstand the blow of a level 40 magician. It increases the defense rate to incredible values. Why are these dead warriors so terrifying? If only the knight had known, he would never have gone to the necromancer. Dying because of an average scroll is not worth it. The dark magician will not give this knight the opportunity to escape. Since Dre has begun to kill, then he should cover all his tracks. He ordered the undead not to let him escape. The necromancer activated the berserker strike, which deals damage to the target equal to 200% of the user's strength. The knight swallowed in horror. This summoned undead also has active skills. What the hell is going on? Maximum protection works for about a minute. The greater the damage, the faster the skill time decreases. The knight has almost reached his maximum limit. And now the active utmost defense of the vile pursuer was broken. The knight was surrounded by a terrifying army of undead. His sister appeared in the mind of the only necromancer in the world. Red Yara always said that if he takes on something, then let him do it without hesitation. The shadow assassin looked at the young mage in amazement. This guy cut everyone off without even moving from his place. It was simply unthinkable. When a professional dies, items fall out of his inventory. I wonder if these idiots had anything worthwhile. So Carmen's bronze ranked staff, which increases magical power. Carmen's combat bow and sword increase her abilities and strength, and Carmen's shield increases her defense. Well, in general, the expected mediocre equipment for a necromancer. Such weapons are of no value. However, these 4 items can be sold to other users. Dre activated the spatial inventory. The necromancer received a regular skill scroll. It can give a new skill, or it can be sold for 10,000 gold. The assassin does not advise selling the scroll for such a pittance apparently. The lady has an interesting past, but then how to use it? The shadow warrior happily clapped her hands. Everything is extremely simple. The mysterious young man just needs to say the word use. The necromancer firmly held the ordinary skill scroll in his hand and said the word use in an even voice, but nothing happened. Well, apparently the necromancer said the command to quietly. He should try louder. The girl broke into a smile. So apparently, his interlocutor is deceiving Dre. Apparently the scroll needs spiritual energy to activate. The dark magician activated the introduction of spiritual energy into the scroll of skills, but he ruined everything as soon as the young man realized this. The necromancer received a new skill, corpse explosion. It explodes dead bodies around and deals damage of 10% of the attack power within a meter radius of the corpse. A very interesting skill, because having received the hidden unique profession of a necromancer, the young man feels that there is still life in the corpses. And with the abilities of a dark magician, his attack radius will easily rise to 10 meters after improving and pumping up his abilities. Even one body, having exploded, can set off an explosive chain of dead. Simply an amazing skill of mass destruction. This hidden unique profession does all the skills and abilities of a divine level necromancer. And how's it going with Dre? He learned a new skill. The dark magician nodded his head approvingly. Why is Dre still so silent? The young man has such a beautiful and soft voice. The necromancer's emerald eyes fell on the girl's face. This miss is clearly different from the schoolgirls. He feels at ease and pleasant with her. The young genius praised the girl's voice in response. Well, she already knew that, but she's grateful to Dre for the compliment. It's very nice. The necromancer is simply amazing. The young man saved the life of his interlocutor, and in gratitude, the girl will give him a gift. The assassin handed Dre a medium scroll of skills. It costs around 1 million. This one is truly precious. Just a minute, because the shadow assassin was pursued because of this middle scroll and was almost killed, and she could so easily give it to the young man. Lyran discovered a hidden chest in the Carmen dungeon in the city of Darren. This type of chest appears randomly. She was very lucky. And as soon as the shadow assassin managed to open the hidden chest, the girl immediately took the middle scroll of skills, who knew that these freaks were watching her. These idiots began to pursue, but she did not give them the scroll, although she did not really value it, but she got it through her own efforts. Therefore, these knights pursued the girl, and she was on the run all the time. They pursued her for 2 days all the way to Sinai, and they were terribly tired of her. The girl almost died. Don't worry, if she gets hurt, she will automatically teleport, but she would still have suffered if it weren't for Dre. But it hurts to suffer, and she's afraid of pain apparently. The young man was worrying in vain. She apparently comes from a rich family, since she keeps such a treasure with her. And now the middle scroll of skills belongs to the necromancer. Dre has something to eat. She is very hungry. Well, let him give her the potatoes. So the necromancer is here apparently for leveling up. Judging by his level, the young man has not yet attended the university, where he plans to go, of course, to Shere. Yes, with this guy's data, getting there won't be a problem. No one except him with level 10 is capable of defeating a gang with level 20. This is an excellent choice, although a very difficult one. The silent handsome man must fill. He must strive to conquer the Shankar Tower. For the first clear, Dre will receive a double reward, so you should try to clear as many floors as possible on the first try. In this way, the young man will earn a lot of points, which are so valued in Shiro, and he must also attend the creation seminars there. The shadow assassin did not talk about the university for long. Soon the girl was overcome with fatigue and stress. Lyran fell asleep, and Dre covered her with his jacket. Well, the day was interesting in terms of events today. The necromancer received 2 scrolls of skills. It's time to restore spiritual energy. Meditation is active. The night passed quickly enough. The dark magician was awakened by the voice of the awakened girl. Dre has potatoes. She is so hungry again. The young man threw her a whole dozen potatoes. That's not enough. Dre, after all, is a man who should be generous. Let him give away everything that was left. Well, the only necromancer in the world really has more potatoes, so be it. The girl believes her savior. It's time for the shadow assassin to continue to level up. The young man is becoming stronger very quickly, so soon they will be able to level up together. Next time the young people will have a lot of fun. The girl is slept and eaten, so the monsters cannot escape her punishment. Well, the necromancer said goodbye to his new acquaintance, and now you can try out his new acquired skill. The dark magician walked away from the fire and approached the 3 corpses of the vile pursuers of his friend, and he will begin with them. So the only necromancer in the world concentrated and activated a new skill. An explosion of corpses instantly hit his targets. After improving the dark magician's talents, the explosion area of the new skill has increased significantly. It is simply incredible. After all, now this skill is practically and divine level. If you think about it, then activating it in the air will be even more powerful. But just yesterday, these unfortunate corpses threatened the newcomer with cruel reprisals. Who would have thought that such a thing would happen? The necromancer turned around and walked away, leaving burning corpses behind him. It's time to try this skill in Rigo's mine dungeon. After upgrading the skeleton warriors from iron to bronze, 70 spirit points are spent on summoning each one. Now there are only 300. After yesterday's meditation, the young man will be able to summon for dead warriors, and here is the entrance to the dungeon of the Rigo mines. We need a healer for a group of 3, a mage, and a healer need a knight for the team, and we also need support for crowd control. Other users were milling around everywhere. Everyone was looking for strong players to join their team to improve their abilities. So there are only 2 difficulties. Even on the normal level, there are elite monsters. They are stronger than on the surface, and on the nightmare level, the monsters are improved, and it is more difficult to pass. To complete normal difficulty, you need a knight and a healer, but for nightmare difficulty, you need at least 5 people. And who is this guy with the skeleton? An unfamiliar curious user activated the analytical skill, but this skill was rejected due to a blocking medal. It's great that Liren left the blocking medal for Dre. The young man was already attacked by those who wanted to make him a member of their team, assuming that he was a summoner. The elite team is going to go to a nightmare level of difficulty and will share points with Dre. The young genius is not interested in this. So the only necromancer in the world has decided on the difficulty level. The most reasonable would be to choose the nightmare one. The notification window asked the user Dre Gareth for confirmation of his choice of difficulty. The young man confirmed the nightmare. This guy really went alone into a nightmare level dungeon. What is his profession? Someone managed to analyze his abilities. The guy tried to analyze him, but it didn't work. Then they'll wait. It'll be interesting to see if this guy will come back at all. The necromancer was already inside the mine dungeon. The dark magicians smelled a strong smell of blood. The monsters would discover Dre as soon as he left the circle. This is undoubtedly an improved elite monster. Its strength and constitution are very high, which means its damage and defense are abnormal. Regular professions don't even have a chance to cope with this dungeon. Without a group, and necromancer is another matter. Compared to the attributes of Dre's summoned dead warriors, the attributes of these elite goblins are simply nothing. And so the first goblin of the 14th level of the Rego dungeon was killed with one movement of the necromancer's bronze skeleton. The young man received 4,200 experience points, which is 10 times more than the previous monsters. That is, one local monster is equal to 10 ordinary ones. Killing a goblin takes a few seconds, and Dre's pumping speed has also increased. Well, in this case, the necromancer will not leave anyone alive. The dark magician ordered his dead horde to clear out the local territory. And just like that, literally in a matter of moments, the necromancer's level rose to 11. Dre received 5 skulls and 6 tufts of wool. After increasing the level, the spirit indicators were restored, and now Dre can summon for more skeleton warriors. All skills were improved. Damage was transferred to summoned creatures faster, and soul ignition caused great damage. After the 10th level, the increase in basic attributes increased strength, spirit, and agility increased by 100 points. And also the basic attributes of bronze skeleton warriors have increased. Now the increase in points has increased to 200. However, the new skill obtained from a regular skill scroll did not improve like all the others. If the shadow assassin were now next to the necromancer, then perhaps Liren could explain the situation. The dark magician's thoughts were interrupted by a terrifying roar. A shockwave hit the silent young man in the face. And here comes the king of the mine, the Arctic Wolf. This is a 15th level elite leader. His strength, spirit, physique are equal to 2,000. If the leader's attributes are very high, apparently the final boss will have them beyond the limits. One Wolf cannot withstand the horde of undead, even if he is stronger in terms of performance. The only necromancer in the world examined his opponent and then ordered the bronze skeleton warriors to go on the offensive. The Arctic Wolf let out a devastating roar again, but the undead's physique should be enough to overcome the Wolf King's attacks. The bronze dead warriors had already broken through the shockwave of the leader's roar. Their master ordered the use of their furious strike skill. So the stronger the necromancer's opponent, the higher the advantage of his undead army. The skeletons fiercely attacked the Arctic Wolf leader. The power of this attack skill is not so high, but the skill shows itself perfectly in battle. The king of the mine defended himself from skeletons with a shockwave of the roar. Then suddenly the Arctic King broke out of the cordon of the undead and rushed towards the gorge. Could the boss of the dungeon really just run away from the battlefield? Hundreds of red bloodthirsty eyes appeared from the darkness of the gorge, so something was clearly wrong here. Apparently, the King of Wolves lured the necromancer here on purpose. The whole cave was simply swarming with mine wolves. They had the 14th level. Strength, spirit, physique were equal to 600. Well, these cave dwellers are not very strong, but there are a lot of them, more than 100 for sure. Even 5 professionals could not cope with such a number. However, Dre Gareth received a unique hidden profession as a necromancer, and these mine wolves are his experience points. Bronze skeleton warriors immediately rushed predatorily on the offensive, and now the first row of wolves was cleared. Dre activated the explosion of corpses. After upgrading the skill, the damage dealt destroys 100% of the wolves' health, which means instant death for them. The ranks of the pack of mine wolves quickly emptied. The dark magician told their Arctic King not to worry, he would get it too. The necromancer again activated an explosion of corpses with crushing force. This gave him 15,000 experience points, quite low efficiency. And so the elite leader of the dungeon was killed. Despite the small number of points, valuable resources still fall out. Well, if you don't slow down and continue to clear the dungeon at the same pace, then soon the young man will reach the final boss. In the future, when a necromancer goes into a dungeon of hellish difficulty, the dark magician will receive much more experience points. So the guy rose 1 level in just 1 hour. You can easily reach level 19 by going through it a couple more times. So after killing the Goblin King, the necromancer must reach the 12th level, which means it's time to wake up the big guy. Well, as expected from the final boss, his strength and physique are significantly superior to the bronze skeleton warriors. The Goblin King had the 16th level. Among his skills, he had Fire Breath, Swing, and Concussion. Dre transferred the damage from the goblin's attack to the undead. The final boss's attack strength and physique were 3,000, his agility was 2,000, and his spirit was 2,500. Of course, summoned undead with lower attribute scores will not survive the devastating attack of the Goblin King. The summoned undead turned into dark ashes right before the eyes of their summoner. Nothing could be done. They could not do without sacrifices. So the final boss destroyed to bronze skeletons of the dark magician with just 1 crushing blow. The necromancer's defense is not enough, so the damage he receives will be distributed among the undead according to their health. Apparently, the young man's main weakness is his own physique, so he needs to improve it in the future. The final boss of the dungeon tirelessly launched a series of power attacks. The strength attribute of the summoned undead could not be compared to a goblin. The bronze skeleton necromancer was only level 11. Their physique, spirit, and agility were equal to 2,000. However, even the final boss will not be enough to match the strength of an entire army of summoned undead. Dre smiled. Predatory, his powers knew no bounds. The only necromancer in the world called upon his dead army. At this rate, the Goblin King will soon be exhausted by the constant attacks of the army of bronze skeletons. The final boss of the dungeon broke free from the cordon of summoned undead and jumped into the air. The Goblin King then landed heavily on the ground, causing a shockwave that sent the bronze skeletons flying. Apparently, the final boss was specifically angered by the dead warriors. The Goblin King activated his fire-breathing skill. The necromancer must not allow the final boss to continue using his active skills. The dark magician concentrated and activated the soul flame skill. The bronze skeletons soared into the air, and the final boss let out a terrifying roar, clutching his eyes. The fire attack was deactivated, and here was the chance to kill the Goblin King. So the dark magician didn't have much energy left, so it was time to finish with the Goblin King. The young man activated the Berserker Strike. The final boss was destroyed. The necromancer received the 12th level, and after moving to the next level, the energy was restored. Now you need to collect loot, and here is the Mantle of Wisdom. Although Dre is a mage, but unlike them, he does not need to recharge, so this cloak is useless. This crystal core can be exchanged for 10,000 gold at the exchange center, which is worth more than 2 defense items. The young man came here for a reason. The spiritual energy has been completely restored, and now from more bronze skeleton warriors can be summoned. Well, the Dark Magician has finished with this dungeon. Time to teleport back to the entrance to the mines. No one expected that the newcomer would get out of the dungeon alive. He was indeed wearing the mantle of wisdom. This guy single-handedly cleared the entire dungeon, as is even possible. The dungeon cooldown lasts 12 hours. Dre will wait and use this time to meditate to restore spiritual energy. Well, this dungeon helped the necromancer learn not only about his greatest weakness, but also realize the importance of skills. The skill of exploding corpses is incredibly powerful for our attacks. It has no equal. The soul flame not only hinders the enemy's skill, but also protects. That is, it ignores spiritual attacks, which is also incredibly powerful. Even bosses of a nightmare level need to try hard to resist. Users often spend their time in the wild and appear to be very experienced and well prepared. By the way, all these wandering travelers and experienced warriors very much remind the Dark Magician of his new acquaintance with a good appetite. The necromancer approached the entrance to the dungeon, but some kind of chaos was happening around. What had happened here during these 12 hours? The Dynasty Guild is always trying to monopolize everything. The dungeon doesn't belong to them. Why the hell shouldn't others be allowed in there? The vice president of the guild is currently on a mission inside the dungeon. Until he finishes, his guild cannot let anyone inside. The guild dynasty is too authoritarian. These pompous fools do not have such rights. The guild representative activated the deadly pillar of fire. The red-haired guild member is tired of wasting time on empty talk. He has already told the rest of the users everything, and this will happen to everyone. The indignant young man lay motionless and lifeless on the ground, his face distorted, with a grimace of painful death. Why the hell did he dare to kill this guy? And what is wrong with killing a single player? If you have the courage, then let anyone come and take revenge on their guild. Then everyone's attention was attracted by the super gifted newcomers. This guy who cleared the dungeon alone. What's going on here? The Guild of the Dynasty needs the core of the Goblin King. It appears only in dungeons of nightmarish difficulty once every 100 days, and the scoundrels have seized the initiative. Their vice president carries out this task, and the rest are not allowed in so that their guild does not have competitors. This task was posted on the notice board by the Dynasty Guild itself, but so far no one has been able to complete it. The core of the Goblin King costs at least 30,000 gold, and they want to buy it for 10. They're greedy freaks. An alchemist can make a ring from a crystal core. This artifact improves all the user's skills by 1 level. A recognized artifact can be used from level 15. It is a very powerful thing, and for beginners, it is simply divine. It is said that the vice president of the guild wants to enroll in Radley Academy, so owning this item is mandatory for him. Dre doesn't care who they are. It is unacceptable to interfere with the development of a necromancer. The young man tried to stop him, convincing him that his provocation would lead to death. The representative of the Dynasty Guild was trampling another curious user into the mud. There was no point in dwarfing them. The eyes of the world's only necromancer flashed with a dark light. Let these fools leave the passage to the dungeon. Does the little bastard even know who he's talking to now, or the goblin knocked all his brains out of him in the dungeon? The Dark Magician will not repeat it again. The vile Dynasty Guild member laughed. Dre is just a low-level rookie. The necromancer's emerald eyes flashed with a poisonous fire. Many make a similar mistake, but literally regret it a second later. Why does such an inexperienced user even need to go to a dungeon? Let him continue to catch monsters in the area. And what kind of profession is a necromancer? The rest of the users have already begun to worrying about the taciturn genius. It is better for the young man to leave these idiots kill for no reason. Why is it that this guy's gaze makes the Dynasty Guild member uncomfortable? And why is this young man not at all afraid of them? This damned brat deserves to die. The bastard began to activate his staff, and one more step, and Dre will die. The Dark Magician, with steely calm, took a defiant step forward. The red-haired degenerate ordered the rest of the guild members to kill the insolent one. Dre is just a pathetic non-entity. Even if he actively attacks, he will not be able to break through even the shield of a magician of the 25th level. However, the magician was immediately dumbfounded. What kind of creature is this? Where does he get so much power from? His energy shield will withstand a maximum of 5 hits. Bronze Skeleton, the warrior, activated the Berserker Strike. If this undead strikes again, the shield will fall, and the magician himself will die. In the empty eye sockets of the Dark Magician's executioner, there was only inevitable death, a terrible thing, but the magician simply cannot be intimidated. A level 25th magician managed to activate oncoming fire waves and threw away the summoned undead. Well, a member of the Dynasty Guild almost died because of some snotty youth, and why did the rest of the guards freeze? The damn brat must see his summons cut in half, he is doomed. However, the chilling dead man repulsed every attack of the vile magician and dealt a crushing blow in response, as is even possible. The magician, in horror, ordered all the other members of the Dynasty's guild to immediately kill the summoner, then all these undead would die along with him. The two archers immediately pulled the strings of their bows. The kid should not have bothered the adult users, now he will pay. A hail of magic arrows flew towards the necromancer. The other users shouted for him to quickly dodge or run. However, the dark magician calmly put his hand in front of him and ordered two more bronze skeletons to rise. The dead warriors immediately repelled the arrows of the archers. Their summoner was not even hurt. What was it just now? The archers looked at each other in horror. Cold sweat began to flow down their faces. It was simply unthinkable. A 20-level magician had never seen such power in his life. How this young man managed to summon several creatures at once. So you need to coordinate and block all the bronze skeletons, the necromancer's warriors, before they get to them. The magician activated the dancing fire snake. This is the strongest skill. Less than a third of the magicians can wield it, which means this idiot is in trouble. These dark summoning creatures would never survive an attack as powerful as their insolent master. Well, this time the brat definitely lost. An attack of such crushing power would destroy his entire dead squad. The fiery dancing snake attacked a squad of bronze skeletons. Of course, the undead could not survive a blow of such force. However, after him, even more summoned undead fell upon the Guild of the Dynasty. But how is this even possible? How can there be so many of them? The 25th level magician realized in horror that now the members of the Dynasty Guild were left in the minority. The necromancer's army was too large. The red-haired guild member roared for everyone to take their fighting positions and prepare to attack their enemy. The 25th level mage activated the enhancement of his team's strength, agility, spiritual energy, speed, and morale. Well, the Dynasty Guild has a lot of experience, and they work well together. Their team has always been invincible. Nothing will change now. Other users approached the mysterious dark magician to dissuade him from fighting, but the necromancer told them to move away from him. One of the guild archers pointed his bow towards the young genius. The necromancer activated soul burning. The archer immediately screamed heart-rendingly. He grabbed his head and dropped his weapon. The healer instantly activated the regeneration spell. The 25th level magician smiled contentedly. The healers would do an excellent job with this, but the girl whispered in horror that their comrade in arms was dead. The archer really felt dead. The healer couldn't cope with damage of this magnitude. But what the hell is going on? This is not normal. Is it possible that the most outstanding guild of the dynasty, which knows no defeat, will be destroyed by one single brat? All members of the Dynasty's guild were ordered to focus on this dark magician. All the power lay in him, but the young man was unattainable. And the members of the Dynasty Guild needed to save their own lives. The dead army was already advancing. The guard activated maximum protection. However, the summoned creatures very quickly caused critical damage to the protective barrier, and the guard began to squeal in fear and call for help. Where is the support of others? Why is no one strengthening their comrades? The guild needs support. The protective barrier shattered into pieces. The defender himself was vulnerable and helpless in front of the dead squad of the necromancer. And now the soul of the Dynasty Guild member was already burning. The defender roared in pain and begged the healer to save him, but he was doomed. Everything around flared up with the dark magical flame of the necromancer. For the Guild of the Dynasty, it was all over. Their army was defeated. The 25th level magician decided to abandon his comrades and save his own skin. This guy is definitely not a person. He will tear him to shreds. The vile instigator decided to run away, but it was too late to retreat from the battlefield. Let him have the courage to stand before the enemy to the end. Dre activated the detonation of corpses. After the improvement, the range of action increased to 10 meters. The skill deals damage equal to the target's health units. The knight's health level is one of the best among all classes. With damage equal to their health, everyone is doomed to death. The flames of the souls of those disliked by the necromancer lit up everywhere. Heartbreaking screams echoed throughout the entire area, and the smell of blood and flesh was in the air. One of the guild members was burning alive in the fire of a necromancer and tried to reach his commander in the hope of help. However, the 25th level magician was consumed by his own animal fear and despair. He could not help anyone. This simply cannot be. Such power does not exist in nature. Who is this guy? A 25th level magician is doomed. The corpse-burning attack hit every target, ripping apart the body of the Dynasty Guild mage in a matter of seconds. After all the obstacles to leveling up, the necromancer's attributes were destroyed. The young man wiped the blood from his face with his hand and moved towards the portal. Behind the only necromancer in the world, another wave of explosions thundered. The dark magician will have no equal in this world. All members of the Dynasty Guild are dead, even their bodies are completely destroyed. The guy is incredibly ruthless. The president will not leave it like that. Considering their rotten nature, those who remain will find everyone present here and kill them for the death of their comrades. We need to leave quickly. Half an hour later, the vice president of the Dynasty Guild returned from the portal with nothing, and this time the man did not get the Goblin King's core. Together with the head of the most powerful combat guild, his assistant teleported from the magical portal. And where are his magician gain result and the rest of the guild members? Where did everyone go? They were supposed to guard the portal right here. Something happened. Apparently Gain took their guild away from here. They need to fire a signal flare. If they are nearby, they will definitely respond. Gain result is the strongest in this district. How could he be killed? And if there was a battle here, then why were there no traces left? The vice president feels that something bad has definitely happened, that it is unsafe here, so to begin with, they will simply leave here. At this time, the necromancer was already clearing the dungeon again. His dead conscript army was once again finishing off the Goblin King. The final boss was killed again. The young man needed to find an alchemist to make a ring from the Goblin Crystal Core. The Goblin King's spellbook is useful for Soul Flame and Corpse Explosion, but not for skeleton warriors. The experience requirements began to grow. The Dark Magician needs 3 more attempts to reach level 15. The young man can complete the dungeon 5 more times and reach level 16, which is below what Dre wanted, but enough for the academy. The necromancer activated reverse teleportation. Apparently everyone left well. This is for the best. We need to return tomorrow after recharging. The next day, Drea saw Varia at the portal to the dungeon. She had finally reached the 10th level. This is definitely Dre Gareth. Only this guy has the skill of summoning undead. Does he really want to go into the dungeon alone? Believing that she's actually a 10th level elemental mage, everyone will want to take her on the team, so she show it to the young man. 45 minutes later, the necromancer killed the Goblin King again. His army already had 70 bronze skeleton warriors. The dark magician put his hand in front of him. It was illuminated with a green light. The necromancer orders his undead to rise. Drea received the 13th level, a monster crystal, and a goblin bow. This is the boss's fate. It's not that he wants to kill him, he just needs to level up. 12 hours later, the necromancer returned to kill the boss again. He will soon stop, and does it quickly, and not so badly. Maybe next time, they will be able to come to an agreement. The young man received the Goblin King's staff. He already had 76 skeletons, but their skills were not yet very powerful. The thoughts of the dark magician were interrupted by an annoying, envious woman. And what was Varia doing here? She had just left the dungeon. The girl looked exhausted and battered. She clenched her fists and angrily asked what level her opponent was at now. Drea is now level 14 and Varia almost died when she moved to level 11. How is this even possible? The gap between students is getting larger. Even if you go through dungeons alone, there is no way to increase levels so quickly. This guy is generally human. Varia does not admit defeat. The girl began to look for a team to return to the dungeon. An hour later, the restless classmate returned after another foray into the dungeon. This was still not enough. The 11th level elementary magician is looking for a team again. Varia will definitely catch up with Drea someday. Well, this lady seems to be in despair. And why is she so enlisted in Drea? The young man generally doesn't care about her successes or defeats. Another hour later, the girl was at the end of her strength. She insisted that she would still be the best. Why is this so important to her? After another battle, the girl sitting next to the dark magician, she almost reached the 12th level. She will soon overtake him. Isn't her classmate tired? Of course now Varia can hardly even move her finger. But why bother yourself like that? He also asks. Yes, Varia has been in his shadow for so many years. She should surpass Dre. Only because of this, it was necessary to let her take first place in at least one exam. Varia also wants to get into the Shire Academy. Then she should go through dungeons of nightmare difficulty, so she can level up faster, and she's unlikely to make it in time. Elite teams take magicians there from the 16th level, so she remains at a normal level. If she pushes, she will have time to reach the 15th. The girl simply won't be accepted into other teams, but as a classmate, she manages to bypass the recharging process. Varia immediately beamed. So the great genius doesn't know this. Is it really true? The girl is now much happier in her soul. It's great to think that Dre is not all-knowing after all. If the young man asks politely, she will tell. Dre remains silent. This is a talisman. Recharging this magical artifact helps to ignore the recharging of the mission. 7 out of 10 uses remained, so that's what this thing was. Well, this magical artifact is very useful in leveling up. The talisman is quite expensive. The girl's father gave it to her to help her pass the levels better than Dre, and even with it, Varia couldn't even keep up with him. You need to activate all 7 uses in 2 days. You need to complete the mission 9 times to get level 15. And the girl is already so tired, she simply doesn't have the strength, but she has no choice. She needs to enter the Shire Academy. They could group up. This guy could clear the dungeon by himself. She wouldn't have to do anything, but that meant she would never be able to outrun him. Then Varia will give him her talisman, and he will take her with him to the dungeon. She still won't be able to reach Dre. She needs to at least do some. In this case, the young people agreed. They will leave in 2 hours. Let the girl rest for now. She will take a little nap. The classmate passed out literally in a matter of seconds. The process of replenishing spiritual energy was activated. 2 hours later, the dark magician woke the girl. It was time for them to go to the dungeon. Varia stretched contentedly. The only necromancer in the world took out the magical artifact of Varia from his pocket. The mission reload talisman was activated. Wait a minute. The guy is crazy or something. Why the hell did the young man choose a terrible difficulty level? Teleportation is activated. Why are the characteristics of monsters so high? This is actually a nightmare difficulty, not divine. They will die here. This guy is definitely crazy. Let the girl stay closer to the necromancer and talk less. It's very distracting. So maybe Vera should run away before it's too late, but then this invincible genius will laugh at her for the rest of her days. Why is the girl plodding along there so slowly? Let her walk faster, and just don't tell him that she's scared. Of course, Varia is not afraid. The dark magician summoned his dead undead and set them on the dungeon goblins. And why isn't the young man fighting? Somehow my classmate doesn't understand anything about what this guy is trying to do, what he's trying to achieve. Shouldn't they be killing everyone here? The girl was terrified. Then Varia froze frantically. Sticky sweat flowed down her face. Her body became mushy and did not obey. This is the Arctic Volve King of Nightmare difficulty. He is 2 more than the normal level. What should they do now? And now it's time to implement the plan. The necromancer ordered the skeleton to kill the goblin and throw him up to activate the explosion of the corpse. You can't waste time and fight, as before blowing up the corpses will instantly kill them all at once and save a lot of time for leveling up. The goblin guard of the dungeon mine was killed. The girl's experience immediately increased by 30% thanks to this silent genius. What the hell is going on? So this is how a dark magician clears dungeons with excellence, quickly and efficiently. This is how much power you need to have. 3 professional users killed this Volve King in half an hour, but Dre killed him alone in exactly 1 minute. He has divine powers. So the young man spent all this time going through dungeons of nightmarish complexity. It's hard to believe in this until you see everything with your own eyes. It's simply unthinkable. The girl shouldn't lag behind. They need to do everything, which means starting from the 10th level. This guy breaks all world records in history, and she also tried to compete with him. After all, not even 10 minutes have passed, and these 2 young people are already running to destroy the final boss of a dungeon of nightmarish difficulty. When the classmate was on the team, it took them all together about 2 hours to get to the Goblin King. Literally a few seconds pass. A terrifying roar is heard throughout the dungeon gorge. The Goblin King was killed again. The necromancer increased his level again, and now the young man was already at 15th. But how is this even possible? The gap between young people is widening again. What does she even count on? Where is she? And where is this Superman? After the destruction of the final boss, the Goblin King's bastard sword fell out. It's a shame that it wasn't a staff. The girl needs a staff. This is the best weapon for magicians. Sometimes you can see it in the store. But she doesn't want to ask her father for money. Then the dark magician threw the staff of the Goblin King into the hands of his classmate. If she needed it so much, then let her take it. And why doesn't the young man use the boss's staff himself? Dre is not interested in him. He has the Goblin King's Book of Spells. The necromancer never even used the boss's staff, since for him its powers are completely insignificant. It is better to collect monsters together, and then use the explosion of corpses until the 16th level. You need to go through the dungeon 5 more times. The only necromancer in the world approached the final boss and sat down next to him. He apologizes, but he will have to die 5 more times. And why is the necromancer talking to the final boss? He still doesn't understand him. For it doesn't matter, he just wanted to say, "This guy is exceptional. Who else would talk to the boss and apologize? Shouldn't they be killed?" Dre is such a fool, but it should be noted that the guy is a real cutie. The girl didn't even expect him. The necromancer called out to his companion at the portal. They are running out of time. They need to press on. The girl is already running after. The portal teleportation is active. The dark magician again took out his recharge talisman and launched the magical artifact. The second passage of the dungeon of nightmarish difficulty was completed. The classmate could not get enough of the strength of this young man. Then immediately followed the third, fourth, fifth passage of a dungeon of nightmarish difficulty. The talisman will be enough for 2 more times. Varia already had the 14th level. She only needed 1. Before entering the Shire Academy, there was a day and a half left before the exam. The young man will want to get level 16 before entering. And why shouldn't Dre become a provincial champion? The provincial champion can get a lot of points. This can help with admission to the Shire Academy and even to Xian Ratu. The Xian Ratu Academy is the best in the Empire. Shire selects the elite, and Xian Ratu only selects Shen gently from the entire city of Sinai. And the girl is sure that Dre will easily become the second person. Then the director will not be able to sleep with delight. This guy definitely has superhuman powers. Since Dre is sister, studies in Shire, the young man must get there first, and then in the future try his luck in Xian Ratu. And this is not Kai there. An 11th level knight asked to join the team, but he was driven away from everywhere. His experience was not yet great enough. The dark magician suggested that his companion take the poor fellow with her into a dungeon of nightmarish difficulty. No problem. At this time, anger fell on the vice president, who gave the right to seal the dungeon if he decided to die. Then there was no need to take the entire guild of the dynasty with him. An angry man in a chair, covered his face with his hand. Sweat was running down his forehead. What kind of carelessness and stupidity! The Empire in the class association will not just leave this situation. What to do with his team? Given his 16th level, let the guy just wait for the exam. People have already been sent to investigate. To make so many people disappear, this person is definitely not someone to mess with. The worried knight ran from side to side in search of allies, but everything was in vain. Then the boy noticed his classmates. Kai grimaced suspiciously, and he was very interested in what these two were doing together. Varia told him to shut up, otherwise she would cut his throat. The young man was just joking. Let Kai go with them to the dungeon. As soon as the cooldown ends, they will definitely make it to level 12 before the exam. His classmate immediately beamed. They are as saviors. The academy Kai is going to enter needs exactly the 12th level. The knight obeys every word. If it is necessary to pretend to be dead, then Kai is at their service. Let him finish his performance or be left without a command. Kai obeys the will of the young lady like a true knight. And how long before the end of recharging, Varia began to boil. Let him immediately fall silent. So you need to calm down and breathe out. This is just a cocky boy. There are 10 hours left before recharging. But the guys rest. Kai will hunt monsters. For now he is rooting for Dre. Sooner or later Varia will become his. Well, the vile slug got it all. The girl activated the fiery stream. The guy finished his game. She had already warned him so many times. The 11th level knight ran across the desert with wild screams from the fiery magic sphere. Let Varia remove this thing. The girl began to boil with anger. This idiot deserved it. Let her classmate calm down. The young man just likes to tease others. 10 hours later, all 3 of them went into a dungeon of nightmare difficulty. They made a mistake with the difficulty level of what they were doing. Let this idiot stop asking so many questions and just follow them silently. But the girl herself was also hysterical at the beginning. Why is this idiot stuck to the girl and hiding behind her back? He's a knight. This is a terrible difficulty. Kai will move away with 1 scratch. The dark magician has already cleared the entire dungeon and activated the detonation of corpses against the final boss of the nightmare level. Kai was stunned with amazement at what the hell just happened. This big guy is hard to defeat with 10 men, and Dre knocked him down in a minute. The knight fell to his knees. Let the divine necromancer take him with him on all missions. Varia boiled, and he can behave like a knight and not this. What's the point of behaving like a knight if a superman with divine power is standing next to her? The girl herself does nothing. Let Kai let go of Dre's leg, then they will take him with them another dungeon, and everyone's level will improve to the required level. Thus, the dark magician will receive his 16th level, and then he will only have to wait for the exam. The elders of the educational institutions stood on the roof, so all the students should already be returning back. After all, tomorrow the main exam in the life of each of them will take place. It is true that two geniuses of Sinai are going to enter the Shire Academy. That's right, for this you need to have level 15-16, is practically unattainable, only Dre's sister was able to achieve it. And here are the first students who returned after clearing the dungeons. Perhaps these students will be able to create a miracle. The first to come out to the teachers was level 12 swordsman Caleb Stone, a high school student as expected from the talent of his school. The archer is a level 13 Eagle Eye. The girl's name is Sierra Min, also a very outstanding student. Well, the levels don't mean anything, the main thing is the exam results. These two old men are trying to shield themselves since there has not yet been a single student above the 14th. Why haven't 3 students from the Sinai Academy appeared yet? What if something happened to them? And here are these same Trinity. What a relief that each of the students returned safe and sound. I wonder what levels the guys managed to achieve. So Kai Middle is a knight and reached the 12th level. Varia became an elemental magician and received the 15th. This girl has really reached level 15. This is about an 8% chance of getting into Shara. The director should be proud. And finally, the most anticipated student of the Sinai School, the only necromancer in the world of a unique hidden profession, reached the 16th level. But this is impossible. They had to continuously clear dungeons with monsters. It's worth paying attention to their weapons. Kai Middle's shield and Varia Roy's staff are the weapons of the Goblin King. It is almost impossible to get the entire set of final boss equipment. The guys did a great job finally. Sinai Academy can answer these old show-offs. Let them get on the bus. So, since Dre has reached the 16th level, he will definitely be enrolled in Shara. The young man should think about entering the enro Academy. The next day, the young man's spiritual energy was completely restored. He had like skeletons in his call today. It is at its maximum. The hall of the academy was already crowded with hundreds of worried students. Today was the most important day for them. Dre was immediately called out by Kai. The competitive lover immediately turned to the young man as soon as she heard the name of the necromancer in the large crowd. Well, the boys are confident today in their abilities, and their admission. The necromancer is confident that he will be enrolled in the Shara Academy. In this case, the dark magician will definitely meet the elemental magician. They're already at the university. Good luck to everyone. This is a teleportation stone. You need to break it or activate it with your spirit. It will take you to the exam site. The most important thing is safety. Students should not forget about this. Students, one after another, began to move to the exam. There are more than 1,000 people here. The exam location is the province of Umar. And here is the same legendary test tower that all the high school students used to scare the younger students. The test tower has been activated. Making noise and asking questions is prohibited. Violations of the rules will result in immediate disqualification. A rockies immediately arose among the frightened students, as it was impossible to ask questions, and if something was not clear. 2 young people are disqualified because they just broke one of the rules and are teleported back to school. Kai Middle immediately covered his mouth with his hand in fear. Cold sweat flowed down his face, and this guy still has brains. So the Tower of Testing is a magical container for various tests for different classes. For students who have received combat class as a profession, combat class challenges will be provided. Students who are responsible for maintaining the attributes of their teammates will receive various difficult situations, and so on. After completing the basic tests, each student who succeeds will receive access from 3 difficulties. Points will be awarded for difficulty levels. Points are the result for the exam. In addition, you can use any equipment that is currently on them. However, the inventory will be sealed. The items cannot be used. If there are so many people in the province, then there are more than 1 million arriving throughout the country. Well, apparently, the young man was right. The Tower of Trials is like a dungeon. They will be sent to different places according to their classes. This is the very new class of necromancer. It should relate to summoning magic. Everyone hopes that this profession will not disappoint the mentors. Well, due to the uniqueness of this young man, we can define his class as rare and send him monsters that are 2 levels higher than him. The examination committee will do just that. This guy with a new unfamiliar profession can already begin his task. A huge magical monster appeared in front of the only necromancer in the world, which means the young man was assigned to a class with magicians. His task was to defeat the magical Wolf. Because of its light, the dark magician could not see his level and equipment. The countdown has begun, the last seconds will expire, and the monster will rush into battle at Dre. The necromancer activates the soul flame. The magical monster immediately roared in pain and collapsed to the ground, shuddering in death convulsions. So the first student to complete his task was Dre Gareth. His time was exactly 1 second, which was simply unthinkable. What was it? How did this newcomer manage to activate instant kill? Rare professions are not capable of this. Test Tower Observation Room. Why is Master Nin here? The chief examiner asked to see the sensational necromancer. The guy killed the monster in a second. They didn't even have time to evaluate his skills. Let them repeat the test on legendary difficulty. Is that fair to a beginner? It was an instant kill. The young man will be given 100 points ahead. If the next one passes, the master will personally give him another 1,000. The second test for the necromancer was activated. In front of the young man stood a magical valve of the 20th level. There was no variety. The dark magician, looking bored, put his hand in front of him and activated soul burning. Another instant kill, and this is on the legendary difficulty of the tests. There is no point in continuing the test. You need to send him to the next test. For magic class subjects, the first stage is over. There were 10,000 applicants for the exam, of which only 5,200 passed. Varia knew that Dre would take first place, but to cope with the monster in a second is generally beyond any possibility of how to catch up with him. The vice president of the Dynasty Guild roared angrily. He should be in first place, but the young man is not even in the top 3. 1 second. This is not real. The second test begins. Subjects can choose the level of difficulty. Their abilities cannot be overestimated. If the student encounters danger, he can choose a penalty, then the exam results will be counted as is. This is definitely a competition. Normal, nightmare, and hell level. Dre would definitely not be able to beat the warrior fear prey if he chose hell, even if this upstart took first place. Elemental mages are not strong in close combat and single combat on high difficulties, but they win in numbers. Varia chose normal difficulty. Stalker is a rare profession among assassins. They are extremely strong in close combat. Hellish difficulty is an excellent choice for them. The entire observation staff crowded in front of the screen when they began to show the necromancer. Why are they all jostling? This stage of the exam tests the students' endurance and battle. Holding out for 30 minutes is a difficult task. However, this will not at all complicate the world's only necromancer. The young man chose hellish difficulty. And the director hit the jackpot. 2 of the top 3 are his students. If this guy becomes a provincial champion, it will be a resounding success. No one was surprised that the boy chose the hell level. With such power standing in front of him was an elite Volv, a 13th level beastman. While somehow rather weak for the hellish level of the second test, the necromancer summoned his dead army. The dark magician summoned 2 bronze skeletons warriors. Their strength, spirit, physique were equal to 2,500. Yes, this is too easy. The next monster appears 5 seconds after killing the first. 2 dead warriors are enough. These creatures are stronger than any other from all classes, and this guy summoned a whole undead with such power. This new profession is incredible. As for the fierce warrior fear prey, this young man shows off more, showing off all his fighting skills, forgetting about endurance. This guy is slightly behind Varia Roy, and the ranking the girl made the right choice, ending up on normal difficulty. Dre was eating potatoes at this time. This is the first person to rest during the exam. He needs to be noted and immortalized. Apparently, this exam is too easy for a necromancer. This young man is fraught with power that the world has not yet seen. Vair is finally finished. He has fished 50 monsters of hellish difficulty. This time, the first place should be in his pocket. The second stage of the exam is over. Half of the test subjects are injured and left the exam. Let them show the ranking table as soon as possible. The rest can leave the exam or move on to the next one. It can't be why this Dre has 3 times higher scores than everyone else. A monster appears once every 5 seconds. Every minute, at most 12. This guy killed absolutely all the monsters that fell in 30 minutes. This guy killed 720 monsters of hellish difficulty in 30 minutes. He doesn't need time to kill it all or something. The director's student is too strong. Anyone knows anything about him. His results are simply unthinkable. The third level also offered to choose difficulty. Dre chose hellish. Here the limits of individual strength are tested. And here comes the boss of the hellish third level, the captain of the wolves beast men. And this puppy is not even close to the monsters from the mines. It will be easy. It is clear that the Empire fears for the safety of the students, but still the young man is disappointed. Let the undead quickly deal with the boss. There are only 5 stages in the exam. The necromancer hopes that at least the final 2 will make him sweat fear enjoyed every kill. Varia calculated her strength and carefully used her attributes. She couldn't miss, she only had 1 try. The stalker made full use of her killer class skills. The girl felt great in her environment. And the necromancer again instantly killed the final monster. What kind of summoning creature is this with such power every time he goes too far? There is a feeling that until now they have not even seen his real strength. 5th round will reveal it. If he passes it, he will become a provincial champion. Another ranking page has appeared, by the way. The fair-haired knight, Kai, is also trying very hard. He is in 4th place. The 4th stage of the exam is coming. This stage will already be life-threatening. Students can still make a decision and refuse. Well, finally, the last 2 stages of the exam. This is a real chance for a furious warrior to bypass this necromancer. With the current results, students can enter the best academies, but they all continue the test. This is worthy of respect. So the 4th stage, everyone will encounter 10 waves of monster attacks. There will all be 100 monsters. The waves come regardless of the previous ones. The last wave will be with the boss. You need to deal with every monster. At the end, 1,000 points will be awarded for the test. So at this level of difficulty, there will already be all the elite magical monsters that the students have encountered before. I wonder how the necromancer will cope this time. The best way to deal with the summoner is to eliminate the summoner himself. Surely this guy will not withstand such an onslaught, but the head of the evaluation group is confident that this guy will cope with ease. So the dark magician calls upon his dead army. Bronze skeletons. The warriors must properly stretch their bones. Well, 3 of his dead warriors will be enough for these magical monsters. Dre plans to participate himself. While the bronze skeletons went on the offensive, their dark master activated the soul flame, and a painful roar was immediately heard. What the hell is going on there? This guy is actually from this universe. The necromancer has already summoned 3 such entities. Why did he summon the 3rd skeleton before this moment? What was he waiting for all this time? This child is very cunning. This exam is very easy. It doesn't even compare to the first dungeon. The young man entered, nothing surprising. The supervising staff are also bored with watching the invincible genius. He always wins, nothing interesting. So elemental mages are more inclined towards AoE attacks. Now it's time for Varia Swarm to shine. A furious warrior bathed in the blood of magical monsters. Fear had a manic appearance. He adored his profession. Isn't this Dre Gareth too strong? His dead army kills absolutely every monster that appears. Kai was already talking with all his might about his brother, who cleared out the nightmare dungeon alone, so it's better not to meddle with the knight. There are too many monsters. It is impossible to kill them all in time. There are already only 5 students left. They are already exhausted and injured. Well, besides that necromancer, the young man doesn't bother much and eats potatoes during the 4th examination stage. This is the 15th level holy swordsman, Coinfeng, from the famous family. He was just biding his time, since the last 2 stages are the most important. The berserk lasts 5 minutes. Strength and physique increase by 500%, after which a state of weakness sets in. 9 of the 10 waves of attacking magical monsters from the 4th stage of the examinations had finally ended. And now the 4th stage of the exam has ended. Only 5 subjects have passed. The results will be announced soon. The 1st place was taken by Dre Gareth with an unimaginable margin. Can anyone from this 5 really be able to pass the 5th stage? The furious warrior was pleased with himself. Everything was going exactly as Fear had planned. The 5th stage of the exam would judge everything. Well, the elemental mage just wanted to get into the top 5 students. In order to get into the Shire Academy, she couldn't keep up with Dre. The stalker was sure that she would soon be admitted to the Shire Academy, so the 5th stage would not change anything. While once in the top 5, students will not be automatically enrolled in Shire. If they do not prove themselves, now they will be disqualified. So now the rules for the last stage of the exam, everyone will be mixed into the expedition dimension. There will be all kinds of monsters, even in the top 100. The more monsters a student kills, the stronger they become. You need to keep in mind the distribution of points. The measurement is divided into 5 stages. Only they see the distribution of their points. Even the examiner will not be able to see this information. If the students had an ace up their sleeve, now is the time to get it. The necromancer has moved to the last stage of the exam. This place smells of a lust to kill. There used to be a war here. Apparently, this is required in order to get used to the feeling of the impending battle. Well, what is in store for the young man this time? Warriors are level 15 lizards, so why aren't their attributes where their equipment and skills are displayed? So judging by the arriving magical monsters, these monsters have clearly requested reinforcements. Maybe it will even be fun. So the bronze skeleton of the necromancer cut the lizard's chest, but the monster did not die, which means that they have a good physique. So if this magical lizard did not die with one blow, then it will definitely die from two precise blows from the dead army. It's time to activate the Dark Magician skill. The necromancer chose his target and activated the detonation of the corpse. The observing commission was terrified. No one had even started yet, and the necromancer had already killed 10 monsters in a second. Well, the young man is grateful for the reinforcements. The necromancer will at least stretch his back this time. Someone must send the monsters back. The corpse of the 15th level magical monster began to disappear, and this entire process took 10 seconds. So you should combine your forces. The necromancer calls on 9 of his delusional skeletons warriors to rise up. The dark undead must spread out and drive the remaining monsters into one place to deliver a crushing blow. The necromancer knew perfectly well what he would do with his targets, who never understood that they were locked with him in this dimension, and not vice versa. And when all the magical monsters are cordoned off at one point, the dark magician will activate an explosion of corpses. A horde of chilling undead swept through with crushing force and drove the magical monsters to one point. The necromancer activated an explosion of corpses. What is this class of necromancer? What did this kid just do? Does his profession even have a threshold? Just a minute after a deafening explosion that cleared the entire territory, the young man needs to wait a whole minute for the monsters to be reborn. Then dozens of fiery flashes appeared above the dark magician's head, flying straight towards him. This is also whose fiery attack dives from the air at the necromancer. The undead immediately rushed to defend their ruler. The dark ore of the dead army protected its summoner from the damage that the young man could have received from a fiery attack. At the rocky peak, a thunderous roar was heard from a level 16 lizard mage. He activated the Rain of Fire. Well, this was already much more exciting. Well, since the lizard mage has already spoken, it's time to answer the necromancer. New bloodthirsty magical monsters swarmed from everywhere, their attributes already stronger than the previous ones. The dead warriors took up their fighting positions and held the line, preparing for a new wave of battle. The dead do not know fatigue. The necromancer ordered his death squad to go on the offensive, and the army of the undead immediately rushed predatorily into battle against the lizards. And now the blood of magical monsters, who were not lucky enough to participate in the test of the dark magician, was flowing from everywhere. The necromancer did not leave his steely calm and confidence in success. The young man activated an explosion of corpses. And so 120 monsters were killed in a second. The necromancer was awarded 6,000 points. There were no limits for this young man. This little guy's summon is so strong that the necromancer can use a group attack. His soul flame skill has also changed. This profession definitely surpasses even the legendary level and is not inferior to any of the known professions. So the smell of death in the dimension is intensifying. Dre just fed this place. Will there be a second round? Have you already rested enough? And here comes a new wave of next targets. So there are at least 40 groups of level 16 orcs in front. Among them are Farron orcs, gladiators, and archers. It will be difficult and long for other professions to pass this level, but not for Dre. In the entire history of the exams, only one person passed all 5 stages in its entirety. This was more than 100 years ago. The necromancer has unimaginable power and strength. This young man will be a great discovery for all humanity, a genius who has awakened his strength and talent. They are very lucky to meet this young man. And in the second round, the dark magician again destroyed and cleared the entire territory in a second. This time, he killed 200 monsters at once. Meanwhile, in Warami, the capital of the Shirokaido Empire, something bad and dark was approaching, something no one expected. Under the dome of the protective barrier, a test tower called the True Body floated in the sky. It was one of the 3. The Tower of Tests housed thousands of young minds. A huge number of children were tested that day, and darkness flashed nearby. A dark block of gloomy energy flew towards the container of the future generation of humanity. A threat hung in the air. The Tower of Testing activated protective magic, and a hand of light rushed towards the deadly stake. From the sulphurous clouds of burning and smoke, the ugly face of a giant creature poked out. A great try, but there is no way to stop the darkness. It is already here. The horned demonic offspring began to dodge the hand of light. Anyway, all space would soon be filled with darkness. The demonic creature was of titanic size and strength, but he could not escape the hand of light for long. And then the energy hand squeezed the horned face of the demonic offspring, It's just a clone, they should practice in these towers. And then a devastating explosion occurred, the hand crushed the head of the demonic monster in a matter of moments. This is unexpected. The demonic monsters from the abyss dare to attack from the speed is high. They are preparing to strike. They are targeting these children in space. Scum from the abyss entered the tower. The space was disrupted. They entered the system. The earth of the tower was taken from the abyss, and this played into their hands. Emperor Shirin Bright was hovering in the thick of things. How long would it take to fix everything? About 1 hour. The necromancer immediately realized that something was wrong. All the monsters had completely disappeared from the dimension. This should not happen. The dark magician stumbled upon a frightened classmate. If he meets other candidates, something has happened to the battle space. The elemental mage had just fought with a monster, but suddenly she simply disappeared. The necromancer is not aware of what is happening here yet. Stormy lightning began to flash around the training dimension, and the furious warrior immediately looked into the sky. The monarch of their empire himself came down to the best candidates for admission to the academy. Could it really be Shirin Bright himself? The students taking the exam immediately realized the horror of the whole situation. If Bright himself came down to the kids with an announcement, then serious troubles awaited them ahead. The head of the observing commission froze in surprise. What was the emperor himself doing here? Apparently something had happened to the battle space. Demons from the abyss have invaded the battle space. They are targeting students. They are working to fix it. It will take an hour to fix this situation. Within an hour, the students must defend themselves. The demons will want to deal with them. They need to maintain unity. Varia was consumed by fear. The emperor, with a fighting spirit, announced to the future generation that the people of his state were not afraid of either war or death. The furious warrior immediately raised his swords above his head and repeated the words of his master. The people are not afraid of either war or death. Fear began to repeat the emperor's words again and again, as if convincing himself of their veracity. They should not disgrace the honor of their empire. The weakest monsters of the abyss are level 70. If the Lord said that they can fight back, then they are not that terrifying. Demons from the abyss are targeting geniuses. They want to deprive the empire of the future, but how could this even happen? The head of the monitoring commission ordered everyone present to be silent and announced to everyone that they should believe their emperor. The blood moon of the abyss rose above the heads of the disciples in the battle space, which meant that the power of the abyss had begun to act. They needed to prepare. So this means, what is the future of the empire? They will all die today. If the demons from the abyss want to kill the geniuses of the generation, then they will have to face the knights first. Well, in an hour, demonic creatures from the abyss can kill absolutely everyone here, but it's a pity that there won't be time to taste them. So the bloody moon began to glow red menacingly, and Faring the Orc, a 19th level warrior, appeared in the battle space. This monster was charged by the abyss, but there are level restrictions in the combat space. They cannot rise above 19. In this case, everything is not so scary, but the number of these elite monsters that are affected by the abyss is growing. The second genius of the Sinai Academy was terrified. The girl began to choke with fear and clung to the young man. It won't be easy, but they will succeed. Enhanced elite level monsters, aren't they the same as a nightmare level in a dungeon that they have completed many times? The necromancer is very interested. If these magical monsters have mutated and are charged with the abyss, is it possible to get experience points from them? Apparently, the kids were afraid for their fragile skins, and rightly so. All of them will very soon flood this dimension with their young blood. The furious warrior began to back away in fear. His body turned to stone and did not obey. These demonic creatures had an overwhelming aura. The remaining students held the battle ranks and took their positions to repel the attack of the demonic ghouls from the abyss. The only necromancer in the world came forward. Of all the students, he was surrounded by his dead army and a dark magical aura. Varia Roy squealed in fear. Where did the young man decide to go? Was he really tired of living? They couldn't cope with this. Let the necromancer immediately return back. There are hundreds of level 19 monsters there, and let the girl not follow him. A classmate wouldn't even think of ditching the young man at such a moment. Well, that's her business. The main thing is that Varia doesn't interfere with him, which is what this confident psycho was planning to do. An exciting buzz immediately spread around among the future generation of the empire. And what kind of profession is a necromancer? Apparently, these are the summoned creatures next to him. Behind the young man, to more leaders of the list of those taking the exam appeared the stalker, and the swordsman will go to fight together with the necromancer. It's better to die in battle than to shake in the corner, so the guys will join the dark magicians so that he doesn't plan it. And here are the first young suicide bombers, and this young man is a real daredevil. You don't even want to kill him, you need to send him into the abyss, into the slavery of the Demon King. The necromancer stepped forward and examined in detail the location and number of his future targets. What an interesting little fellow. The gates of the demonic abyss are always open for the necromancer at a distance of 50 meters. Summoning corpses has a good effect. And why did the silent genius of his generation suddenly stop and not move on apparently? The young man was up to something. After some thought, the necromancer's hand lit up with a dark magical flame. This is the right place. After which the dark magician concentrated his dark spiritual energy and summoned his entire undead army. Behind their ruler stood a dead horde of 100 bronze skeletons warriors. Why the hell are there so many of them? This generally goes beyond all limits of possibility. How can he summon so many creatures? The undead have to high a speed, it exceeds the speed of even the stalker, and this is the essence of her profession. Bronze skeleton warriors began to deal crushing blows to the abyss-charged army of magical monsters. However, the elite level 19 monsters were still holding the line and attacking the dead warriors in response. The bodies of the bronze skeleton warriors suffered many serious injuries. The strength of the abyss monsters was approximately 3,000. This means that in order to withstand the attacks of demonic puppets, the body must exceed 3,500, but for exploding corpses, this is even better. 1 minute. The bronze undead began again to strike the monsters. With the next wave you can get points for destroying them. For this 19th level orc, the young man was awarded 8,000 points. Not very much, but better than nothing, since there are dozens of them here as well. The dark magician smiled contentedly and activated his combat skill of exploding corpses. Flashes of flame lit up the space. The remaining students who remained behind, far from the bloody massacre, did not understand at all what was happening there. An incredible profession. What kind of guy is this? Why is he so powerful? What is this young magician capable of? The necromancer is simply an amazing profession. Why did it go to this inconspicuous young man? Fear would have handled it better. What the hell were those pathetic people doing down there? The Demon King from the abyss became enraged. The little boy got him really angry. The Dark Lord of the demonic spawn will drink all the blood of the young people and devour them just to see this bloody spectacle sooner. The Blood Moon of the Abyss began to summon its charged elite monsters. The 19th level monsters rushed to the offensive. The students grabbed their weapons in horror and prepared for a head-on collision. So young and so delicious. The only necromancer in the world raised his head and saw the enslaver of monsters in the bloody sphere, and here was the instigator. The dead host coped well with monsters charged with the abyss, but here you need to be the main demonic spawn. The dark magician concentrated his dark spiritual energy and flew up to the Blood Moon. What the hell is this young man doing? He's completely out of his mind from fear. All the students present froze in amazement. It seemed as if the whole world had stopped and was watching the actions of the phenomenal young man in difficult times. The demonic horned degenerate roared menacingly. This young and juicy steak dooms itself to inevitable death. However, not a single muscle flinched on the face of the silent young man. With steely confidence, the necromancer put his hand in front of him and activated the explosion of corpses. Everything around was filled with bright magical flashes. A horned creature from the abyss let out painful roars. The demon would disembowel the little bastard. The dark magician watched with interest the effect of his skill on the demonic creature from the abyss after all the horned one was still alive. What kind of technique is this? Why is the demon in such unbearable pain? His soul is burning out from the inside. It cannot be. There is no such force on earth that could resist him. The horned demon roared in pain. The spawn from the abyss dared to invade someone else's territory and threaten it must be paid for. Meanwhile, the emperor and his subjects tried to correct the problems in the battle space system. The elder scanned the Tower of Trials, cold sweat flowing down his face. The interference of otherworldly forces was clearly weakening. And what does this mean? Has this demonic creature already dealt with all the students and is about to return to its sulfur pit? Apparently the opposite is true, since the old man feels the breath of many young people, but the horned man's breathing has weakened very much. He is clearly wounded. The emperor began to shake the old man by his collar. What a relief that the children were safe. The old man could not immediately say. He was worried. Let the emperor pull himself together. The demons from the abyss use powers to upset the balance of the battle space. They cannot get inside. But who then injured the demon? After all, only candidates for admission are imprisoned inside. They have not reached the 15th level. The horned ones roared painfully. Let the monsters tear it apart. One of the students lost his balance and fell. Fear froze on the young man's face. Could this really be the end? So the corpse explosion has been improved apparently. In order to improve the level of your techniques, you just need to use them more often. This may also mean that all acquired skills can be improved in this way. Now is the time to check it out. The world's only necromancer activated soul burning and corpse detonation, after which his level immediately increased. Heart-rending screams of monsters were heard everywhere, their souls burned with dark flames. This guy is definitely not a person, it's good that he's on their side. The dark magician raised his head up again. Now the demonic spawn was out of the young man's reach. So the arrogant brat's name is Dre Gareth. The horned demon remembers him well. He will wait until the young man himself approaches the abyss. There was not a single profession and power in this world that could resist the demons of the abyss until the necromancer Dre activated the explosion of corpses. After which the last heart-rending cry of the horned one was heard. The blood moon shattered. The battle space returned to normal. Apparently the kids won and defeated the demons. The consciousness of the abyss was destroyed. The old man definitely feels it. In addition, the battlefield in the combat space returns to normal. A scan of the test tower shows that there are no demon spawn left inside. The emperor immediately asked with concern how the students were doing, whether there were any wounded or dead. Absolutely everyone was alive. There were no casualties, but this is completely different from what should have happened. What happened there in space? Just in case, the elder teleports all the exam participants. We need to return to what was before in the combat space. Varia, spellbound, approached the silent savior and asked how Dre was feeling. Everything was fine with the young man. The power of the abyss has disappeared. The battle space has returned to normal. The students are sent back to the examination room. The test results will be announced later. Yes, if not for this divinely strong silent man, it is unlikely that at least half of the students would have survived at this hour. So the main exam in the life of each student has been completed. The students are teleported back. The results will be announced soon. The main results of combat tests consist of a basic and an evaluation part. You cannot get into top universities with high scores. For this you need an excellent grade. The 5 were assessed by the highest officials of the empire. It is unknown what happened on the battlefield. We can't wait to find out what the necromancer's results are. So this young man became the only necromancer in their world. His strength and power are not subject to characteristics, and it is generally unknown if there are any limits. This necromancer changed the course of events. Calm and decisive, he will clearly be at the top, and it is also likely that the young man has also discovered a unique talent in himself. All those who fled from the battlefield are weaklings in the future. They cannot be relied upon. The necromancer undoubtedly proved himself to be the best. So based on the test results, Dre Gareth gets first place in the exam. The young man has an excellent grade. The school principal began to jump like a child with delight. His student was a provincial champion, and this kid was no slouch. The mentor was lucky to have him. His classmate immediately jumped up to the silent Superman with congratulations. Well, it was obvious and deserved. The girl's eyes opened wide. The young man, as always, calmly and coldly thanked her. Maybe Dre would at least smile at his victory. The girl will not lag behind her interlocutor. The boy is very handsome when he smiles. Why doesn't he do this? Varia Roy took second place. The director was lucky. The girl had 7,000 points and the necromancer had 34,000. The furious warrior took only 5th place and an unsatisfactory grade for the exam. What the hell? No university will accept him with a bad grade. Fear roared angrily that he did not agree with this assessment. Why was he given an unsatisfactory rating? It's not fair. The furious warrior violated the rules of staying in the waiting room. The young man is disqualified and teleported. So the necromancer Dre Gareth becomes the provincial champion this year. By a stunning margin, everyone immediately roared with joy. Kai shouted and jumped more than everyone else. Everyone heard. His closest friend became the champion of the province. Just like that. Here the senior examiners asked for silence. That's not all. Some order came from the empire regarding the necromancer. The young man became the main test subject this year, according to the order of the emperor. Dre Gareth has declared the national champion. This is unthinkable. The director of the Sinai Academy froze in shock. The teacher had not just heard that his boy had become a national champion. While mentor Lin Bray will now be in 7th heaven for the rest of his life, may the director take care of his health and not jump around like that. Well, wow news, the province has a national champion. What a great guy this guy is. Now all the children will want to study at this school. The rest of the ranking leaders approached the silent national champion and thanked him. If not for Dre, they all could have suffered. The guy shook hands, so they will definitely meet at the university and have dinner together somehow. Varia intruded into the conversation between the two young people. Dre is not very talkative. They have been studying with him since early childhood. And during the entire training, this silent genius spoke no more than 10 sentences. Everyone stared at the girl. During his entire study at the Sinai Academy, the necromancer uttered 26 sentences, and the others immediately giggled at Varia. The gifted young man returned to his home after the exam day. Dre did it. Now he will go to the Shire Academy. He has become a national champion. The young genius really misses his loved ones. Very soon Dre will go to his sister's university. There was a knock on the door of his room. The necromancer opened the doors of his room, and why did Director Lee and Bray come to him at such an hour? Something happened. However, someone else was standing on the threshold of the dark magician's apartment, and the eyes of the uninvited guest flashed with a bright flame. The necromancer immediately became wary. This man simply had a terrifying aura. It took the young champion's breath away. The dark magician concentrated his spiritual energy and immediately summoned his bronze skeleton. A warrior, the undead, immediately appeared before the guests. Emperor Shirin Bright has emerged from the shadows, and this young national champion never ceases to amaze with an amazing instant reaction to danger. The only necromancer in the world immediately bowed respectfully before his emperor. The adults looked at each other. The emperor came to talk to the young man about the academy in person. He's a balanced, calm guy with amazing instincts. Just a godsend. After which Dre brewed aromatic tea. The emperor should not be embarrassed. It's just that the student lives here alone. His sister went to the Shira Academy that year. This means that the sister of this young genius is also studying at an elite academy. They were very lucky to meet the legend of the future generation. So a 4-meter bronze skeleton is a warrior with rather low performance. How did Dre use it in the combat space? The necromancer immediately froze 1 minute, which means the emperor can read the characteristics of other users. Judging by the young man's phenomenal abilities, Dre has clearly awakened his talent. The young man knows how to increase the improvement of his skills. The emperor is here for 2 reasons. Firstly, to give the champion a reward, and secondly, to take him to the academy. Tomorrow there will be a test exam. This will be an internal test of their academy. All participants are their students. Details can be found after agreeing to participate. So the decision will be up to the national champion. Everything is kept secret. Only their students participate. Apparently, this is very important. Such a unique chance is really rare, so in this case the silent genius is simply obliged to participate. The emperor laughed contentedly. Dre is very proactive. In addition to the reward, the national champion receives skill scrolls. The first reward besides the exam points is that thousands of points. All the young man's points are already here, and they are much more useful than gold. Another reward for the national champion is entry-level and mid-level skill scrolls. The third is additional rewards for performance in the combat space. This is the shot of qualification. Qualification is valuable for entering the tower. The young man must be prepared before going. The necromancer understood everything. Well, since the genius of the future generation understood everything, then let the boy get ready quickly. The emperor will send him to university. And now the national champion is already teleported along with the monarch of the empire to the university. The director wished good luck to his gifted graduate.